contests?
Yeah, sometimes.
That was like as scary as a wave that big can get, probably.
Some of those waves are better off left alone, I think.
I think what makes a good trip is just the people you hang out with. Yeah.
I remember just being a little guy and hearing that line, "We should dance like no one's watching."
Here on the tiny mounds of coral, perched atop the long-extinct volcanoes that create this distant atoll, the life John and Kelly are used to is a world away. Their existence made simpler here, where life wanders slowly along a more modest path.
John and I are so oftentimes in such a high-pressured, focused, scrutinized thing. So it's really nice to just step away from that.
There's no phones. It's just you and the ocean, and it's a pretty simple life out there.
A lot of adults come up to Kelly and they want something from him.
Can you do this?
But kids don't want anything from him except to hang out and maybe play with him.
Go.
And he likes that. And he's known John since John was like 3 years old. So he still feels like John's still in that same vein as like he could let his guard down. And I think John, he's just sort of still one of those kids at heart when he's around Kelly.
Two of the sport's greatest competitors, Kelly and John get a chance on this trip to continue a friendship they have had for more than 20 years. For the first time hanging out and surfing, just the two of them. Before them lies surfing perfection, a steep, fast-moving barrel breaking on shallow reef that will allow them to push each other and their surfing.
Oh, that was a sick one. You can feel the waves breaking. It's breaking literally right there off the beach, and maybe 4 to 6 feet of water with the barrel. It's just so much water and power folding over itself. That's what makes it so interesting. Oh, look at that one. It's like drawing off the reef. What? Oh, look at that thing. Look at it.
First explored by Magellan in the early 1500s, the island chain, comprising of 29 coral atolls, is home to 1,156 islands. The life John and Kelly are used to is a world away. Every year for more than a half-century, the planet's best surfers travel the globe on tour looking to take home surfing's top prize, a world championship. For more than 30 years, no one has dominated this world like Kelly Slater.
You always knew Kelly was going to be the man. He won his first world title, and then he won another one, and another one, and another one, and 11 world titles later, and he's still going at 45 years old.
But today, in the middle of the competition season, the 11-time world champion is not training or on his way to an event. Far from anything, Kelly is on his way to a tiny atoll in the South Pacific to go free surfing with John Florence, his heir apparent, who is poised to one day take the crown from Kelly as his generation's greatest surfer.
Kelly Slater, he was that guy to us. He was our biggest idol. He was the guy we all looked up to and the guy that we wanted to be. And now I'm having heats with Kelly, and it's pretty crazy to think about that.
John, he's the level. He's the top right now. His turns, his carves are the best. His airs are the most progressive, but he does it with such casual style. You know, if you ask anybody, they would say John's the best.
In a world where any break is not more than a day away, it takes venturing to the little-known regions of the Earth to get isolated and barrel.
For conditions to become perfect for this place, it takes, sometimes it's years go by without it breaking. And we waited for 6 months and it didn't break. And then it finally turned on. And to actually get that in our window was a risk.
Taking the risk, they arrive on the small island chain that they will spend the next few days exploring. Eager to rinse off days of travel, Kelly and John waste no time getting into their luggage on the tarmac, ready to catch their first waves of the trip.
There's not a lot of places you land.
One of the greatest surfers of his generation, Rob Machado has excelled in every aspect of professional surfing, amassing 12 ASP World Cup victories and wins in big contests like Pipe Masters and the US Open. Rob was ranked among the top 10 surfers for 11 years in a row. Also winning contests as a young surfer, Craig was able to follow a path forged by those like Rob, realizing early that his life could be about traveling the world looking for the best waves.
Craig's one of my favorite guys to go on a trip with. He's such a talented surfer. I've always liked the way he approached waves and the lines that he takes, and then his ability to get obviously super radical.
Rob Machado and Craig Anderson have come to Chile with filmmaker Taylor Steele and the Proximity team to document the frigid rocky breaks. Today, standing on yet another bluff, looking down on a turbulent ocean, Craig Anderson and Rob Machado pause longer than usual, carefully scrutinizing the waves below.
The ocean was just wild and woolly and alive, and just a lot of intensity. This is like the one spot on this day, the only part of the coastline that could potentially be offshore. And it was, but it was probably 15 feet straight closeouts.
Oh my gosh. That was almost makeable.
We get down on the beach, and we thought it was like a foot or two overhead, and it was double overhead and just chunky and tons of current.
I remember just being so excited. I couldn't really wait. And with surfing, you kind of want to time the sets to get out, but it was really hard to see. I just was so excited to get out there. The first time I got washed all the way down the point, and as a surfer, it's pretty embarrassing when you can't get out the back line and get in position to where you want to take off.
Winner of 12 XXL Big Wave Awards, his 25-year career is filled with many of the sport's greatest moments. And now at 43 years old, Shane shows no sign of slowing down.
I really just love to surf. My focus is chasing big waves around, and anything intense where you're really pushing yourself and challenging yourself, those are the sort of sessions and waves that I'm going to remember for a long time.
The concept of proximity is having two surfers that are at the top of their game that feed off each other and be able to relate to each other in a way that no one else can relate. And when I was talking to Shane about who sort of, his equivalent in the next generation, he's like, Albie, it's a no-brainer.
Taylor Steele gave me $100 grand once.
We did this competition called Intersection, and Albie submitted his video online and won $100 grand.
I had like a decent amateur thing going, but it all kind of ended and then didn't pick back up until the Intersection thing.
His career reignited by an incredible performance in his submission for Intersection. Albie Layer has gone from a kid who was riding Jaws at 15 to the kid riding it at 24. The first to land an alley-oop 540, Albie has made a mark in both the freestyle and big wave world. Albie and Shane will continue their search for the ocean's heaviest waves in the icy waters of Scotland.
Rad wave, yeah? It was basically like this bone-dry reef that was slanted at this most perfect angle. And so the waves would come in and just peel along that thing.
Might be too shallow, so we'll see how they do. But cool environment with these windmills and right on the edge of the world, really.
Any new wave you surf, that little like jittery moment of like jumping in the water, that's like one of the best feelings to me, at least.
Like shaking. Really cool little wave. So we're kind of frothing. The tide's getting perfect. The wind's offshore, and it's gonna be nuts.
To have Shane there, who's like one of my idols, really helped because I didn't want to act scared as I was, I guess. So that whole moment of like just jumping in, like, all right, like we're trying.
I can hear your soft voice sliding down the wall, and I feel the green light kissing my face. Tell me.
Two of the best goofy footers in the world. The left point breaks of Chile set the stage for Craig Anderson and Rob Machado to exhibit their awesome ability to surf the ocean's most challenging waves.
Surfing, you just never know what you're going to get. There'd been probably 3 or 4 days of no surfing, and then we arrived back at the same spot, and it was sunny, just peeling lefts with no one around, so it's what makes it exciting, and it keeps you coming back.
The chance for great surfing and the guarantee of adventure motivates surfers to travel the world chasing swells. And as that could be any day, almost anywhere on Earth, the options seem endless. However, the growing popularity of surfing has crowded the warm, consistent breaks, leaving only cold, rugged coastlines like Chile devoid of surfers.
Storms blow through, and on the other side of storms, there's always that blue sky. And with that comes some good waves, and it all turns around. It just sometimes can drive you a little stir crazy when you're sitting around waiting for it to stop raining. And it's good for the soul, though.
The ocean in southern Chile at an average of 50 degrees tenses muscles, starving them of oxygen, making any activity difficult. And once they get caught in the currents, no amount of paddling will get them back out to the lineup.
Your exit was quick, just one chance, so I know it's a trick. All over the world, you see it every day. You might say yes, but you know you can't stay. So don't give up.
What do you like? Try surf treats.
Oh my God.
What? I was gonna share it. Look, plain as a whistle. A little crunchy.
With spirits high and the swell at its peak, the team will need to take advantage of what could be their last day of good surf here in Baja.
It's 3:30 in the morning. The swell has dropped a little bit, so we're packing up. We're gonna go about 5 hours south.
On their last day, they venture south, making their way even further into the desolate regions of Baja's desert coastline. Without clear directions, the rugged, unmaintained roads slow their progress. And in the darkness, even what looks like smooth pavement threatens to end their adventure.
I think we got stuck. Are you sure this is the way?
Just go fast.
In a sport where ocean currents, wind, and weather affect the lives of all who participate, the world's best are consumed by the almost impossible challenge of being present when all of the elements are seamlessly married into the ideal wave. For six-time world champion Stephanie Gilmore and free surfing icon Dave Rastovich, the 11-hour drive has brought them to this instant and the opportunity to experience that rare moment of surfing perfection.
For the most part of my success, I felt like I was able to forget about the previous wins. So it was sort of like...
Going into shooting our segment, we were kind of deemed as the winter section.
We were looking for basically bad weather and more like stormy kind stuff.
And we thought Chile was going to produce that like cold, wintry kind of look. And
of course, as soon as the waves got good, the weather got good, and we were like, oh, this is not what we're looking for.
And so we saw this great swell going to Japan, and it was going to be snowing, and so that's even better.
Chasing snow, the team will cross the Pacific to Japan's North Island. But wherever they go looking for waves, there will be weather to contend with.
The red is extreme winds, and the green is where we're going to be. It is going to be snowing Arctic wind, so it could be a little bit on the challenging side.
I've been to Japan quite a few times, but I'd never been up to the North Island. I was actually really nervous. This water temp, it was in the 30s. It's like 20 degrees colder than anything I've ever seen.
My ears are gonna fall off.
Are you cold? Cold yet?
My face is starting to like not being able to move.
Yeah, I definitely hadn't prepared that well. Like I got there and still was blown away by how cold it was.
Want me to fine-tune it for you?
Please. It's always that one. It's that little part. You're like, I had it. Oh, hasn't that happened when you're out in the water? Thank you, Rob.
Go get some cooking waves.